Hallo.
Hello. We continue with my little lecture cycle on the Bluebird app. Please, something I'd like to have a request. Please don't photograph me from the sides. That is really disturbing to me. Sorry for you, photographers to my left and right. I don't want to see it. This is awful. Okay, we'll continue with my little lecture cycle about the Bluebird app, and I've already explained today why Twitter is neither the funniest nor the most useful app, and there's actually no really good reason to spend time there. I don't want to deal with the platform itself and more on one of its functionalities, which is discussed more than the content shared on Twitter. The next few minutes will therefore naturally be about one of my favorite functions, and that is blocking. And one thing I would like to state in advance: blocking destroys the culture of discussion on the internet. And that's why I love it. No one has ever had a productive discussion on the internet. If you are honest to yourselves. Maybe someone in the room right now is thinking, hang on, I've had several good discussions on the internet, but I think you're lying to yourself. They weren't used for discussions. You weren't exchanging arguments. It didn't enrich your experience. It was just, it was no death threats. That's what a good discussion on the internet is, one that doesn't end in a death threat. And I think we have to say goodbye to the thought that platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever are conceived for good exchange. If they present an opinion and whether we agree with it, we like it, and if we communicate about something we don't agree with, then we're seeking an argument. And in the worst case, this is a danger to the psychological and even physical health. So we don't need a better culture of discussion on the internet. We need no discussion on the internet. It's enough already. We don't need huge threads, replies to replies, people talking at cross purposes. We need peace. We don't need all this. We're complaining about the culture getting lost, but it's been like this all the time. We hate each other. And that's why it's great that we simply do without discussion. There are many adults here with jobs, with children, even hobbies. We've better things to do rather than engage and argue with anonymous people on the internet. Leave it be. Enough. There's nothing more embarrassing than people having a fight on the internet. It's not just the small trolls that are hiding away in their basements. It's people like you and me that are arguing, and that is so embarrassing. If you just consider it, how indignified it is to quarrel on the internet. Our best sword is our only sword. So the best way of engaging in discussion, our best tool is the blocking functions. It has many enemies. I can understand that. It's a kind of authoritarian measure. It kind of destroys the network. And sometimes, if I block someone such as Christian Lindner, the leader of the Liberal Party and finance ministers, I thought that's a bit cowardly, right? I can understand that people don't like blocking. And maybe there are masses of arguments against the block function, but maybe I won't be able to read them because I've simply blocked all these people. But the most important argument for a joyful block finger is the following one. Can you hear that? That is peace. The most important good on the internet. Peace, calm, a sense of control about your own consumption of the media, and that is so wonderful. It's a present. Just at a tip of a finger onto the block function, I can give myself that. That's freedom. Freedom of all the things that make the internet shit. And if we accept that discussions are fundamentally fruitless, then the block becomes an answer to everything. Of course, I could comment to the Dr. Oetker Pizza account that it is shit to blurt out some meme on the internet in order to sell the pizza-pressed nutritional mush. And you could write that under each post, but what's the point? It won't change anything. So I'll just block the account. And I'll pretend that it doesn't exist. other than me talking about it at a stage in front of hundreds of people. But I could explain to the stock exchange that it's not so cool that real estate corporations divide the basic right to housing among themselves and they push rents even ever higher. But it won't do any good. Nothing will change. So I'll click on these magic 3 dots on every profile that annoys me, and never again will I be haunted by these temptations to discussion. It's enough. Blocking isn't radical. It's not an overdramatic response, blocking. It's 2 clicks, so much less than any response could be. It's so low threshold that I don't need to justify myself. Every idiot can do it. It's often said that blocking is cowardly. If I'm out of arguments, I'll block. That's the kind of moral argument that I know. But how could it ever be cowardly? Because the alternative would be a discussion on the internet, an online debate. There is nothing more embarrassing, nothing less heroic than arguing on the internet. That is so embarrassing. You just have to consider it. These are normal people. If you're fighting against like these children in the basement, you think of them sitting in the basement and playing video games all the time. If you consider that these are actually normal people, it's so embarrassing then that people are actually fighting on the internet. Of course, I have been in fights. You've been in fights on the internet, right? Yeah, you in the front there. It's gruesome because you're getting into a bad mood. It's so hard to understand the people around me why you are in this bad mood. And people having a terrible day because of something on the internet, because of something on their screen. They're watching it and they're and you ask them, why are you so annoyed? And I have to explain, I have this Twitter account, sometimes I write things and people write back and I get to an argument and the account that I'm fighting with is this or that account. That is so embarrassing. So whether it's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, if you consider who these people are that are engaging in discussions on the internet, the consciousness how completely normal these people are, that is what makes these arguments so embarrassing. We don't ignore enough. Sorry, I'm at a digital conference. I'm getting lost in my papers. That is telling, isn't it?
Yay.
Yay.
Der erste Slot lief ganz gut. Jetzt bin ich
The first slot went okay, and now I'm at half of the slot, and I kind of I'm out of material. So my main argument is block people. It is so wonderful to have that peace, to not engage in the next toxic argument. It is wonderful, and I can only promote that you do this. It's nothing radical, it's nothing political, it's simply sweeping out everything that is so disturbing. You can do it for any reason. And it's such this small amount of power that I have on the internet, which is otherwise determined by an algorithm and something I cannot influence. But if it annoys me, I can kick it out. That is wonderful. I can understand that some people find it bad, and that sometimes people don't. If the person's blocked don't love it, and people think that I am usurping a right, but you don't have to read everything. These people are usurping the right to be of your attention, and I have limits. Everyone has limits. And therefore I appeal to you and to all of you out there, maybe watching on the live stream, block things. If my content annoys you, block it. You don't have to read it. You can simply protect yourself. There is no obligation to engage in discourse. There is just one thing you can do, you have to do yourself, and that is your own mental health, your head, and it's completely irrelevant, everything else. The other things are so irrelevant, you don't have to engage. This is very short-term thinking, I know. The idea that nothing counts and you have to look after just yourself, but please do it. I think we have 3 or 4 decades ahead of us on this planet. Use that time. No one will be on their deathbed and think, fuck, if I had just responded to this one tweet, then the world would be a better place. That will never happen. Every second of your life that you don't spend glued to your screen debating with anonymous or non-anonymous account, none of these seconds you will miss. It's great to not engage. So that's my appeal with this talk to all of you, because I don't want to do it anymore. I want to get away from all this. And at some point, hopefully before these 3 or 4 good decades are out, hopefully I will take distance from this need to put every opinion out there on the internet. If there's a kind of thing in my brain piquing me to engage, but it will go away at some point, I know. And then I'll be a more friendly, peaceful person walking through the world. And I won't have 10, 20,000 strangers that I'm trying to entertain, but maybe 3 and 4 people that are physically around me, and they say, "Hey, Sebastian, you're in a much better mood since you've stopped being on Twitter." And I'll say, "Yes, but I'm also very angry because I can't engage in arguments anymore." So this is deep inside me, this kind of need to quarrel with people, and that is maybe toxic masculinity. Maybe it's kind of posing. But ultimately, it's just about me being a small, angry man, and it's all your fault that you're taking me seriously. So just question yourselves. Why is it this way? Why are you sitting here at Republica and for at least 15 minutes now listening to me? Telling you nothing but to block people, you small freaks that you are. But I'm glad that you're here.
Long story short,
blocking is great. It destroys the discussion culture on the internet, and that is very good. And what's even better, if you have this cynical, sadistic, and masochistic need to argue with people on the internet, small hint to you, small guideline, the worst thing you can do to someone if you are engaging with strangers, maybe anonymous, hopefully anonymous accounts, this most hurtful thing you can do is to simply end the discussion. That is so terrible. It's so hurtful if you're in an argument and the person won't respond anymore. Where should I go with all my energy? I have 3 or 4 violent outbursts still in me. Where do I go with all that? It's very hard to stand up in a fight and walk away. There is nothing you can do. That's the great thing. In the online world, you can just go away, and there's a furious person on the other side and thinking, "Oh, this asshole is blocking me." And then you think, well, run out of ideas. That's what you might say. And at that point, the recipient has won the argument. It is so hurtful if you are simply left alone in a call like this. It is so embarrassing. And I'm often engaging in using my Instagram account. I get into fights with people that like me, and they just go away because they have a real life, in contrast to me. They're on a date, in a gym, or whatever they do. And I'm sitting there, furious, on my mobile, in my apartment. And I'm this weird blue tick mark account that keeps writing because he wants to engage in a fight. And that's where I realized you've come to the end, dear Sebastian. And yes, I have come to the end because I've simply spoiled all the script. I'll be better the next time. And now at the end, I'm also at the end of my passionate speech about the blocking function. Block the Dr. Oetker Pizza account now. It's just completely useless to see all this nonsense about various pizza creations. The social media thing that businesses do. If you meet social media people from large companies that have cool interactions with you, leave it. It's enough already. 40 good years left to us on the planet. I don't want to see any more memes from the Berlin transport provider, from Dr. Oetker's Pizza account. Leave the internet to us, the one thing that is left for us. Leave it. Terrible. I have unfollowed you. Goodbye.